Minnesota. When big boys ain't know us. All fast money, no slow bucks.
Guys, just as I was about to go edit this video, my girlfriend, who's laying right here in bed, told me, she's like, it's so crazy how you do that like without messing up. So I wanted to show you guys, look, when I do these season previews or predictions, there's nothing in front of me. I don't have a laptop, I don't have my phone, I don't have anything in front of me that is showing me the stats or the off-season moves or the head coach or the records from last year. It's all off the top of my head. So I don't know, in my opinion, I'm a little crazy for being able to do all that without looking stuff up. Yeah, every single season preview or prediction that I've done so far and that I'm gonna do is all off the top of my head. I don't use my phone, I don't have my laptop in front of me. So Bosley, shut it. So yeah, my girlfriend was just like, that's insane, that's crazy. Like, of every single team. What is going on, you guys? Brandon here, aka Browadis, and today I'm bringing you guys the season preview / prediction for the Denver Nuggets. Actually, before I go into that, I'm going to be bringing you guys this video, and then later on today I'm going to be doing a Milwaukee Bucks season preview prediction. And if I have enough time, I'm going to try to squeeze out one more team preview. I don't know if I will. In case you don't follow my main channel, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do, I just uploaded a 33-minute vlog this morning, and I'm getting this video done, and then I'm also doing the Milwaukee Bucks one. So I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time for 3 NBA videos, but I promise you guys a double upload on this channel. So let's get started with the Denver Nuggets. So last year, you know, kind of an off season, 33 wins, 49 losses. At head coach, they have Mike Malone. Let me just give you my thoughts on him really quick. I like Mike Malone. When he was let go by the Sacramento Kings, they had brought in George Karl, so I don't think they wanted to let him go. They just saw the opportunity for a bigger named head coach, which obviously didn't work out. And I also felt he was wrongfully fired because of DeMarcus Cousins. Boogie Cousins has obviously got into it with a ton of NBA head coaches, and the end result has been them getting fired. So I think Mike Malone did a great job in Sacramento, or let me change that. Not a great job because, of course, they weren't a playoff team. But I think he did a pretty decent job with the roster he had. So I like that hire for Denver. I think he fits well in Denver. When he did coach them at the end of last season, they played pretty well. He seems to have the respect of his players. And that's the biggest thing for an NBA head coach or any head coach of any team. I always say this. You can have all the smarts of the game. You can read the other team perfectly as an NBA head coach, but if you don't have the respect of your players, there's no point. It's not going to work out. You need to be smart in the game, but you also need to have your players in check, and I think Mike Malone has the respect of his players. So let's go on with their roster. They have Emmanuel Mudiay as starting point guard. Lottery pick last year, obviously really high expectations. He played well. He played good. He showed flashes of potential. He had some games where he looked like John Wall, which was what a lot of people were comparing him to after he got drafted. And then he had some games where he looked like Rajon Rondo, where he could not shoot the ball at all. Honestly, I'm going to compare him to those two players. I think his floor, the worst he can be, is going to be like a Rajon Rondo, which is not bad at all. For those of you guys who are younger NBA fans and you've only been watching Rondo for like 1 or 2 years, you didn't even see Rondo a couple years ago when he was with Boston. He was a defensive monster, which is what I think Emmanuel Mudiay has the potential to be. I think he could be an excellent defensive point guard. Rondo, obviously one of the best passers in the game. I don't know if Mudiay has the potential to be one of the best, but he's not a bad passer. He could pass, he could rack up those assists, and he could drive the ball. He could drive. At worst, if he never develops a jump shot, he has a drive. He's athletic. He could get to the rim. He could get to the free throw line. And I think his best case scenario would be a John Wall type of player. If he could ever develop that jumper, which honestly, it doesn't look too broken. It doesn't look like a Michael Kidd-Gilchrist jumper or a Sean Marion jumper. Mudiay has nice form. The shot just doesn't go in. So I think if he can end up developing that jumper, whether that's this year, next year, or in the future, he could have a star career, and he could end up being a John Wall type of player. So I like Mudiay. He just needs to work on that jumper. That's the only thing. But he's got that starting point guard spot locked in. As starting shooting guard, now here's where this comes into play. I think Gary Harris is going to start at shooting guard to begin the season, but Denver's biggest offseason acquisition, which didn't come in free agency, it came from the draft, their other lottery pick, Jamal Murray, who is, he's a combo guard. He could play some point, he could play some shooting guard. They're obviously going to slot him in at shooting guard, but he has shown that he could put the ball in the bucket. There's obviously questions about his defense. There's questions about whether he could play a full-time point guard, which I think now those have been answered. I don't think he could be a full-time point guard in this league, but Denver doesn't need that. They just drafted Emmanuel Mudiay, like I said. So for Jamal Murray, if he could just accept, I think Murray's going to be a perfect six-man. I think he has the type of game to where in his career he's going to be a bench player, but I don't say that in a bad way. I say a six-man of the year candidate, such as Jamal Crawford, such as Leandro Barbosa when he was in Phoenix. I think he has a perfect game where you could just bring him off the bench and insert him and he'll give you like 20 points a game off the bench. I think his game is molded perfectly for that role, and I think that's the role he's going to play for Denver this year. I think they should start Gary Harris at shooting guard, but I think they should give Jamal Murray a ton of minutes. What he's shown in the Summer League and the preseason, what he hasn't shown on the defensive side of the ball, he's made up for it on offense. The man could score the ball. He could shoot, he could drive, he could pull up from the mid-range, he could knock down his free throws. His offensive game, there's no question that is there. He just needs to improve his playmaking a little bit because there will be times where he has to play point guard, and he needs to improve his defense. Other than that, I love Jamal Murray as a six-man. I'm going to say that. I think in the future he's going to be a six-man of the year, whether that's 2, 3, 4 years down the road. I think his game is molded perfectly to that. So, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, that's dumb. He's going to be a starter. Don't get me wrong. I feel like he could be a starter, but I just think his game fits better off the bench and as a Jamal Crawford type role. Just like Brandon Knight, who got demoted to the bench this season, even though he averaged 20 points a game last year as a starter. It has nothing to do with how bad he was or how bad he is. It's just how you fit. He fits better off the bench. Anyways, I'm talking too much. Let me move on to small forward. This is where the Nuggets, I guess, feel like they're strong at. They have Danilo Gallinari, who he's a little bit inconsistent, but the games where he's on, he looks like an all-star type player, especially in his days in New York. Like I said, a little inconsistent. He'll have some games where he'll put up like 8 or 9 points a game, but then he'll bounce back and put up like 20, 22 the next day. So I think Danilo Gallinari arguably is their best player. He's for sure their best scorer. Backing him up, they have Wilson Chandler. They also signed Mike Miller. I don't know why they did that. Probably just some veteran leadership. They also have Will Barton, who... Will Barton in Portland was a pretty good player, and then I don't know what happened to Will Barton when he came to Denver, but it's like he had like a career revolution where he looked like a really, really good player in Denver. And there's another potential six-man of the year candidate, and maybe even most improved player candidate. He looked as if, I don't know what, maybe it was the head coach, maybe it was just a change of scenery, but Will Barton improved his game. So they're pretty stacked at small forward position. They might even make a trade or two because they have, and they also, they took Malik Beasley in the draft. So they have Will Barton, Danilo Gallinari, Wilson Chandler. They also signed Mike Miller. They have Jakar Sampson, which I don't think he's going to get any playing time, but they have him on the roster too. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to move Wilson Chandler. His name has been up in rumors, but he's obviously fell off from his time in New York. He was a much better player in New York than he was in Denver, so I don't know if a team is going to take him on. But they might even move Danilo Gallinari, which I don't agree. I don't think they should do that. His contract's not even that bad. He's not old. He's in his prime right now, and I think they got to do something at small forward because they're pretty stacked. Will Barton needs the minutes that he got last year, if not more. So that's their small forward position. At power forward, here's where I think if they don't want to trade Gallinari or Wilson Chandler or Will Barton, then you could slot Danilo Gallinari at power forward and have him play a small ball 4, a small ball power forward. Yes, he would probably get eaten up on defense, but on offense, Danilo Gallinari at the 4 and going small would make Denver a really, really fun run and gun team. Could you imagine Mudiay, Jamal Murray, Will Barton, and Danilo Gallinari in the same lineup? But anyways, I digress. Kenneth Faried is their starting 4. His name has obviously been up in trade rumors. They haven't seen as much improvement as they liked with him because his rookie season was amazing. He was phenomenal in his rookie year. He showed a ton of potential, but he's kind of not really improved as they'd like because, you know, rookie starts here, second year they get better, third year better and better. Faried has kind of started here and then just kept on going at the same pace, which is not saying anything bad. He is phenomenal rebounder. He hustles like crazy. He has a never-ending motor. He gets back on defense. His defense isn't the greatest. Obviously, he has no jumper. He can't really knock down his free throws. And the biggest thing is, today's NBA, nearly every team, almost every successful team, has a stretch four. And Kenneth Faried cannot stretch the floor. He cannot shoot. So they might look to trade Kenneth Faried. Who knows? But for now, he is their starting four. They also have Darrell Arthur, and he's not a bad backup. Now here's the center position. See, Denver actually has a lot of depth. Their bench looks nice with Jameer Nelson, Jamal Murray, Wilson Chandler or Will Barton, Darrell Arthur, and then now their center position, Jusuf Nurkic, backup. Because Nikola Jokic, first of all, say those two names a million times fast. That's impossible. Nikola Jokic, Jusuf Nurkic. That's confusing. But anyways, they're good at basketball, so that's all that matters. Jokic came out of nowhere last year. Former second-round pick. Ended up third in Rookie of the Year voting. He finished ahead of Devin Booker. He only finished behind Karl-Anthony Towns and Kristaps Porzingis in Rookie of the Year voting. For a former second-round pick, that is nothing to scoff at. And people, when they saw the Rookie of the Year voting, they were like, wow, who the hell is this guy? Who is Nikola Jokic? Because some people don't watch him play. They don't really watch. They don't have Denver too many games on national TV. He is a great young player. He has the potential to put up 16, 17, 18 points a game along with 12 rebounds and like 3 blocks. He could also pass the ball well. And then they have backing him up Jusuf Nurkic, who is not a bad player, and he's a perfect backup to Jokic. So I don't know. Final thoughts on Denver. Well, actually, let me just say one more thing on Jokic. He impressed me, and I'm sure he impressed the Denver Nuggets themselves. Because when you take a player in the second round, some of them don't even stick around in the NBA. When you take a player in the second round, you just hope that they could at least make the team, make the roster, maybe down the road be a good role player for your team. Jokic came in as a second rounder and finished third in Rookie of the Year voting. I'm going to go on to say Denver has a really nice bench. Although they don't have that one player right now who is a bona fide superstar. They don't have, just like the Phoenix Suns, they don't have that one player who give them the ball and get the hell out of the way and take over the game. But they do have depth at every position. Their backup point guard, Jameer Nelson, their backup center, they have depth. And that's important. They have a nice head coach. They tried to lure Dwayne Wade in this summer. They were trying to get a big name. They were actually in trade talks with the Clippers for Blake Griffin early last season. Obviously, that didn't happen. The Clippers do not want to get rid of Blake. But the Nuggets were trying to make a splash, trying to acquire Blake Griffin in season last year. They pushed hard for Dwayne Wade, and he considered them. I think they offered him even more money than Chicago offered, but obviously with Dwayne Wade's hometown roots in Chicago, he chose them over Denver. But they were trying to make a splash, which tells me they're done losing. They're done with their lottery picks. They want to try to win. They want to try to get back into the Western Conference playoff party. Now here's where I make my prediction. So last year, 33 wins, 49 losses. They didn't do too much to improve this offseason. I mean, they signed Jamal Murray, which was obviously top 10 pick in the draft, and he has shown that he's an exceptional scorer. But like I said, he's going to be coming off the bench for them this season, so I'm not sure how much of a big game difference that's going to make, how many more games is going to help them win. But then you got to figure that they're already going to get improvement from their young players. Mudiay should improve, Gary Harris should improve. They're a really young team. Jokic should improve, and then they also have veteran Kenneth Faried and Danilo Gallinari, who those aren't bad players. So I think Denver, their future looks bright. They have the perfect mix of vets and youth, and they're actually in position to, if a superstar becomes available, I think they have a lot of pieces to kind of throw in for a trade. So I think they have a really nice roster and set up really well for the future. But at the same time, they are still extremely young, and their veterans are only 28, 26, 25 years old. So I think their time will come. Soon their time will come. But this season is just, they're still very young, and it's a little too early to push them into that playoff race. Playoffs for this team, I think no, not yet. It's a little too early. I believe probably the year after they're going to be right there in the playoff party. But I just think this season, after winning 33 games last year, not being able to sign a big name free agent, not being able to make a big time trade, they're kind of, I don't want to say stuck, but they kind of have the same exact roster aside from maybe one or two players. And that's not saying they're going to be bad. I think they're going to improve. I'm going to give Denver, I'll say they're going to win about 5 more games than they did last year. I'll give them a 37 to 40 win range, 37, 38, 39, maybe 40 wins. Who knows? If they're lucky, they could break 500, and if that gets them into the playoffs, then it gets them in. I don't believe they're a playoff team just yet, but I think Denver has a ton to be excited about for the future. I like their head coach. I like their bench pieces, and I think they have the assets to make a big-time trade if, for example, a DeMarcus Cousins becomes available, if a Blake Griffin becomes available, if. There are a lot of ifs, but I like the way this roster is set up. I think they'll be more successful than they were last year. They're definitely not going to be tanking, so if you're a Denver Nuggets fan, I think they'll keep it interesting till the last 10, 15 games, and I'm going to give them, 37 to 40 wins. If they break 500, I'd be surprised, but good for them. So there's my season preview or prediction for the Denver Nuggets. And like I said, I'm going to do the Milwaukee Bucks one for sure later today. And if I have time, which I don't know if I do, but if I have time, I'm going to try to squeeze one more team out. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching.